just love and be just filled up with what Blake's got to share today. So I'm excited to bring up my buddy, Mr. Blake Goad.
Let's give Josh a round of applause, guys. That was good, David. I think David's excited. That's awesome. That was the best introduction I've ever had all day, Josh. That was awesome. A lot of you will get that later, but that was awesome. Are you all cool if I start out with a joke real quick? I always love starting out with a joke because I've learned that laughter is one of the greatest healers of all, right? You all are allowed to talk back. You can talk back. It's okay. Am I that scary? Wow, I didn't know it was that scary. But, so this guy, okay, had his mother-in-law moved in to his house with him because everybody else in that family passed away. The mother-in-law moved in with him, and he was taking care of her every day, feeding her, all this stuff. It was great. And one day he came home from work, and the mother-in-law was laying in the floor, passed out, and he didn't know what happened. He's like, okay, that's not good. So he called 911, and 911 came and took her to the hospital, and they're checking her out, and they're making sure everything's okay. Well, the son-in-law's sitting out in the waiting room, and he's sitting there checking and making sure everything's okay. And the doctor comes out and goes, I got some good news and I got some bad news. And he goes, okay, give me the bad news first, doc. Like, you gotta, I'd rather get the bad news over with than the good news, He goes, okay, well, your mother-in-law's fine. She's great. She goes, she had a stroke, but she's going to be okay. But the only problem is you're going to have to feed her every day for the rest of her life. And she's probably going to live for another 20 years. You have to feed her every day. You got to change her diaper. You got to do all this stuff. And whenever she's hungry, she can't talk. So she makes this weird screeching noise when she's hungry and she needs to go to the bathroom and all this stuff. And he goes, that is terrible. And he goes, but at least she's still alive. And he goes, but what's the good news? He goes, oh, I'm just Josh and she died. How would you like to have the courage of that doctor to play that kind of a joke on the guy? That's just terrible. And I got to give credits to you. Got to give it to Larry the Cable Guy. That was a good Larry the Cable Guy joke. I can't take credit for that. That was funny. But are you all excited for today? I'm excited because we're at G5. So I want to go quickly today, and I want to talk about vision. How many of you have a vision out there? I had got one, But how many of you know a dream, you have to have a dream, and then you have to have a vision. And I always say a dream is what you want, a vision is how you're going to carry it out. And I learned from the best, and Joshua was saying it, I got to spend so many years with my amazing father on the road in meetings that most people probably would only imagine to be sitting in. And these are just some of the things that I've learned over the years getting to sit in those meetings. Can I share it with you? Okay, so the first point, and it's kind of simple, is visionaries have to have a picture of what they want their life to look like. Because how many of you know you can talk the talk, but if you don't live what you talk, it's kind of defeats the purpose. Is that right? And one of the biggest things I found out is visionaries and dreamers have to have a plan of what they want their life to look like 6 months from now, 2 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now. Because how many of you know that you got to have a plan of where you're going tomorrow, but you got to have a plan to where you're going in 20 years from now, right? And here's one of the biggest things that I've learned is what you learn from your past, what you did in your past, you can apply to your future. So the mistakes you made in your past or the choices you did in your past, you can apply to your vision to go, okay, I know how to make sure I don't make that same mistake twice, right? So what you do, I want to encourage y'all. Here's what I want y'all to do. I want y'all at some point later today or tomorrow to take a piece of paper out and go 1 week, 6 months, a year, 20 years, 5 years. I want you to write out what you want to accomplish in the next 20 years. And a lot of you are thinking, well, Blake, I'm not 20 anymore. I'm 40 or however old you are. Here's what I want you to do. The biggest thing I found out in people's lives is what gave them the most hope was when they realized that they still had life left to live. Just recently, my amazing grandmother passed away. And I'm not going to talk about it because I'll start crying if I do. But one of the biggest things I loved about going and seeing my grandparents in the home is my grandfather was late 80s, and he still had a whole life to live in front of him. But one of the biggest things I loved was he knew every single nurse in that hospital. He knew all. If he could tell you their names, they would come by and say, your grandfather was one of the sweetest men I've ever met in my life. But here's what I found out just watching him. And how many of you know you can talk it, but if you don't live it, it's different, right? One of the biggest things I saw was my grandfather living out what he always told me when I was little and my dad always told me, you can walk the walk, but I got to, how many of you know leadership is visual, right? So I loved watching my grandfather because he knew everybody's names, and he'd go, Blake, come here. This is so-and-so, and he introduced me to the whole floor. And they loved him. And music would come on, and he'd start dancing, and they'd say, I love it when your dad starts dancing because he makes all of us so happy. At 89 years old, y'all, don't tell me when you're older, you can't have fun and live your life. He had a vision. Your vision may be just getting out of bed in the morning. Woohoo! That's awesome. But at least it's something. My dad talked about it at church last night. A lot of people get out of bed and there you are. Oh, I'm so lonely. But we want Tiggers. Wonderful thing about Tigger is I'm the only one. Hey, woo! I love Tigger. It's awesome. And I love this. Everybody ends up somewhere in their life they want to be, but a lot of people end up where they want to be on purpose. On purpose. How many of you know there's so many people out there wondering what they can do with their life that they're just wandering out in the world, but if you can just go alongside of them and go, hey, maybe you change these one or two little things and you can be doing so much amazing, great things. Just changing one or two little amazing choices, getting your vision clear to where you want to go in the next 15 years. And you're saying, Blake, I can't think 15 years from now. Well, that's okay. Think a week from now. Think 6 months from now. Because how many of you know you're going to take one? There's an old song, I don't know if you'll know, but it's like, you take one step at a time. You got to take one step at a time. And next thing you know, that was the thing growing up. My dad always taught me how to dream. But my dreams when I was little was little. And the more I dreamed, the more I realized my dreams grew with my age. The things I wanted to accomplish. I was dreaming things at 14 that most 90-year-olds don't even think about. And I'm not trying to make myself sound good. I'm just letting you know that what you think about is important. Your vision is important. Dreamers have to have the will to serve. How many of you know that I believe that the military is one of the greatest things because it teaches guys to have a purpose. And one of my favorite quotes is that there's no soldier left behind. And if you don't tell me that's not a vision in itself, I don't know what is. Because how many of you know you can leave? The other night I was watching Forrest Gump. He was on TV. And he was like, I got to find Bubba. But how many of you know in the process of finding Bubba, he found his whole platoon out in that field. Because he had one vision, he ended up doing so much more. Just because he had a vision. I kept running. Is that not awesome or what? Lieutenant Dan, ice cream. No. But you got to love it. You got to love the simpleness of it. And I love this quote. It simply says, dreamers are leaders and leaders are servers. If serving is below you, leadership is beyond you. That is huge. 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 Point number 2. Visionaries have to have the passion and motivation for what they do. You can't say I got a vision and go home and lay on the couch. It kind of defeats the purpose of having a vision. At least I think so. But how many of you know, here's one of the biggest things I found out. If you can get guys that can go, I have the same vision as you, and they're willing to come underneath you and run with you to get that vision, how many of you know you're more likely won't sit down because you have people that you're accountable to? Doing the right thing at the right time for the right thing when nobody is watching. That's huge. Huge. The more clear and defined the vision is, the stronger he and she will fight for what they want to achieve. Fight for it. Fight for it. How many of you know my grandfather got up every single day and he may not be able to leave that facility? But how many of you know every day he knew he needed to make those nurses feel loved and happy? Just talking to them and smiling and dancing. He loved to shag. But I love my grandfather. Before he passed away, he had dementia. He was one of those guys, he'd get up and put the wrong shoes on the wrong feet. I remember we went up and walked. He loved golf. I love golf. But he'd go out. I'd go play putt-putt with him out back where his little thing is. And he'd walk out and he had the pants on backwards and the shoes on the wrong feet. And he had the shirt on backwards. And I loved it. Because one of the biggest things my grandfather taught me is he didn't care what people thought about him. He did it anyway. Because how many of you know once you start getting caught up with what people think, you start getting bogged down. Getting bogged down. Every champion was once a contender who refused to give up. Every visionary. Walt Disney. How many of you know? How many people knew? There's a thing on Disney Plus right now that talks about how Walt Disney built Disney. And one of the things they said was, as Disney, he got so many people saying he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. Guys, he almost lost money. He basically lost money building Disney. But how do you know it's the biggest thing ever now? All because, I love this, the reason Disney exists is because he wanted a safe place for his children to play. If that's not a vision, I don't know what is. Having your family safe. I love it. How many of you ever heard of Tiger Woods? If you haven't heard of Tiger Woods, we got a problem. Just saying. But he's considered one of the greatest golfers in the last 30 years. Or the greatest golfer in the last 30 years. And I saw an interview that his former caddy Steve did, and they were asking, they said, what got Tiger out of bed every day? What made him want to win so much? And then, and they said, what was his greatest opponent? Which player? And he said, what got Tiger out of bed every single day was not the people he was playing against. It was history. Tiger's biggest opponent was history. Because here's what Tiger knew. If I can show people that they can beat what happened in the past and going into the future, then anything is possible. How many of you know Jack Nicklaus was probably considered the number one of the greatest players ever. But Tiger's goal was not Jack Nicklaus. Tiger's goal was the things that Jack Nicklaus did. Jack Nicklaus till this day has won more tournaments and holds more records than anybody. And you're thinking, well, that's crazy because Tiger's won a lot of tournaments. Tiger's won 3 less tournaments than Jack Nicklaus has. And Jack Nicklaus is 80-something now. If that's not a vision and a legacy, I don't know what is. To having something to chase after and have a goal. And I love this. Tiger's caddy said this, and they said, Tiger got up and told me this every day. He goes, Steve, the reason I practice so much is proper preparation prevents poor performance. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. I love that. That's so good. This is my final point. I'm going to bring my dad up because I'm trying to get through this fast because I want him to come up here. Is that cool with y'all? Okay. So the final point is I love this, and it's so simple. And it simply says this: as we get older, our vision matures and grows with us. So I want to encourage you in my last couple seconds up here is when you're getting older and you're starting to feel like your vision is starting to get lapsed. Recharge your vision. Recharge your dream. You're thinking, Blake, I don't know how to dream. What do I dream about? I'm scared to dream because I'm afraid to fail. Here's what I love. One of the biggest things my dad taught me was, Blake, take friends to the mall and go walk around the mall and go into stores and try on $3,000 suits, or go look at an LV purse, or go look at expensive cars or golf clubs or whatever they're into. Take them to that place and show them what the top thing is in that category. He goes, the biggest thing I've learned is you have to expand your mind from where you currently are to where you want to be. How many of you know every single day that, like Walt Disney was alive, or when, Tiger Woods gets up every day, he doesn't just go, oh, I've won 80 tournaments, I don't have to play anymore. How many of you know he still chases that goal every day to say, I'm going to win 3 more tournaments to beat Jack Nicklaus? It's a vision. It's a goal. And I love this. I'm going to end with this quote. And how many of you ever heard of Thomas Edison? Kind of a big deal. The way you're seeing me right now is because of his invention, just saying. But Thomas Edison said he didn't fail 10,000 times. He found 10,000 ways that a light bulb didn't work. I was like, I like the way he thinks. But Thomas Edison said, many of life's failures are people who often didn't realize how close they were to success when they gave up. My encouragement to you, and I'm going to bring my dad up, is don't give up on your vision. Don't give up. And one of the biggest things that I want to encourage you to do is get people around you that go, I have your back. And I will do anything to make sure you get to the vision you want. And here's one of I'm going to end with this. My dad says this all the time, but my dad says that if you can help other people get what they want, eventually you'll get what you want. Having a vision, a unified goal, I love it. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring the man himself up because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. A lot of you will catch that later. Please help me welcome my amazing father, Mr. Tim Goad.
Yes, please. All right. Good God Almighty. I think I just got replaced. Oh, my goodness. That's a good feeling. Oh, sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Tim Marks is my pusher, and he said I brought some almonds for you. And so I was... Yeah, I don't think there's anything else in there. How cool is this little thing, huh? My friend Trina here brought it to me today. She lives in Dallas, and she said, you need this. It keeps coffee hot for 5 hours. How many of you need something that will keep coffee hot for 5 hours? How cool is that? Some of you are going, I don't need coffee to stay hot for 5 hours because I drink it in 10 minutes, but I kind of sip on it. I don't just throw down on it, if you know what I mean. Hey, we started last month. We were talking about what leaders expect from emerging leaders. What leaders expect from emerging leaders. If you own your own company, I want to help you build leaders. I want to help you attract leaders. And how many of you know leaders don't go just where money is? They go to where the right environment is. If you go where you can make a lot of money, but people don't respect you, they don't appreciate you, you're like, I don't really want to spend my life in that environment. Do you know what I'm talking about? If you go to an environment and you can make a lot of money, but you don't feel fulfilled, you don't feel challenged, you don't feel like you're growing. Like, isn't it true, leaders, that the scariest time in life is when you're in your greatest growth? But it's also the most fulfilling part. So I got to tell you, I love it. I have leaders listening to me today. I got leaders in the room. You guys are just whales. You have just changed so many lives. And I love when leaders get around emerging leaders. And can I tell you, for me, I've never felt like, and I know you don't either, that I've arrived. I feel like right now, I'm in the greatest growth curve of my life. I will no longer sit in yesterday's success, and I certainly won't sit around in yesterday's failures. I am going to reach with a vision to a higher place. So what do leaders expect from emerging leaders? How would you like it in your life if we could help you make more money in less time? How would you like it if we could help you get more time so that you had time to spend your money? I have friends of mine that have got a lot of money. They have no time. Freedom is when you have time and money. You may or may not even understand that, but it is true. And it's amazing how much it costs to buy a little part of your life back. As you keep growing in life, there will be something way more valuable in your life than money. It will be your time. Your time. I kept trying to figure out all of my whole life, how do I get and increase my time? You can make more money, you cannot make more time. A wealthy person and an unwealthy person both have the same amount of hours in a day. It's not how much time you've got, it's what you're doing with your time. So the truth of it is that people don't get their lives changed through information. You can read a book, but what's going to change your life is when you get around somebody who is like-minded, like-hearted. If you study the great industrialists that built this nation, they did great things, but when they collaborated, when they came together, it changed everything. The problem of it is what I know keeps me from knowing what I need to know. So there are 4 skills that I'm going to encourage you to keep growing in your life. Last month, we talked about the 6 things that Jack Welch said in your life you should have in your life. I always love to start with just a little, kind of like a nugget, and then we get into the teaching. These 4 skills I'm working on in my life in ways that I can't even tell you, and my friends are working on them, and all great leaders are working on them, and emerging leaders that will get promotions and set new boundaries in life. As I walked in here today, I'm really grateful for everybody that's here. But I really love these young emerging leaders here. I love the fact that Seth and Mariah, you have your son in the room. And a lot of times you don't think they're getting it. I watch Emery sit here taking notes profusely. You touch my heart. An 11-year-old man, don't tell me that these young, amazing leaders will not be changing the world by the time they're 18. The opportunities that are in front of them are just so overwhelming. So you got to make sure in your life that you're not training people around you to your thinking. Because your thinking worked in the time frame that you were in. When you're single and you get married, you cannot think the same way. Something has to change. Once you have children, it has to change. Have you ever gotten around somebody that keeps living the same life they always lived when they were 12 and they're 40? I got to work on these skills. Can I tell you this in love? I got to tell it to me. If it's not working, dismount. A lot of us keep trying to ride dead horses. If it's not working in my marriage, if it's not working in my children, if it's not working around me, what do I need to do? So here are the 4 skills. This is about a 5-hour training that we'll do someday that I'm going to give to you in 10 minutes or less. And then we'll get into it. Are you ready? Look at your neighbor and smile really big. Now you've got to smile and say these words. I can tell I'm a better leader than you are. I just wanted to let you know that. I just want to get this out. Just very needed to say right there. I can tell you're sucking wind, but I am really doing a great job. I just want to let you know that. Number 1 skill is relationships. Relationships. Wow. What do you think when I say relationships? What comes to mind when you think relationships? How many of you right now got some great relationships in your life? And how many of you right now got a couple of challenging relationships? Do you know what I'm talking about? How many of you have got people in your life that no matter what you do, you seem like no matter what you do, you can't do anything right? Right? Anybody besides me got perfectionists in your life? Hey, Bill, I love you, buddy. It's good to see you. I just want to tell you, it's in relationships. Can I give you some things? I wish I had time just to stop here and take questions because I think this is so critical. It's in relationships that I build culture. And culture trumps strategy. Culture trumps talent. Culture trumps everything. What is culture? Culture is your values, your beliefs, your principles, your virtues, your behaviors, and your mindset, and your beliefs. Culture. It's made up of people who are like-minded, like-hearted, that make your values and your principles and your virtues come to life. How many of you know you can feel trust when you walk in a room? How many of you know you can feel loyalty and honor when you walk in a room? You can tell when people love each other and when they don't love each other. You can tell, honestly, Tim, you'll back this up. You've been in front of thousands of people. You can tell when you walk in a room how edified you've been or if you've not been. You can tell when you get around people's children what their parents say about you when you're not with them. I promise you. My lab has been 1 million people live a year for the last 30 years. People fascinate me. They fascinate me when they do right things, and they fascinate me when they try to skirt the reality. Don't they fascinate you? Now, some of us get judgmental. And I lived for a while very judgmental in relationships. And I lived through a time in my life where, honestly, in my 20s, I thought I was right. And I thought I was right and everybody else was wrong. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? And then all of a sudden, I started to find out there was more than one way to get someplace. And there was more than one way to get something done. My wife, who is incredible, she speaks all over the world. She writes. She's an incredible leader in our family, in the world, to ladies. She's an incredible example. One day we were trying to we'd bought our son a Thomas the Train set, which I loved, but he had no passion for it. You ever try to get somebody to like something that you like and they don't like? So after about 2 years of this Thomas the Train deal and me going and trying to get him to do it and me enjoying it and him enduring it, do you know what I'm talking about? I finally looked to my wife and said, we need to put this away. So she goes, okay. So we just found out in our marriage stuff, we just kind of air our dirty laundry. Well, we were trying to put this Thomas the Train into a closet. And she was pushing one way and I was pushing another way. And I looked at her and I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm putting the Thomas the Train big thing, I'm putting it in the closet. I said, okay. And how many of you know as a husband, I had a moment? Because I was either going to weigh in my caloric self of, no, this is how it's done, instead of saying, well, how do you see this happening? This kept me off the couch. I was very excited. Because my first initial thing was to be critical, to measure, to bring judgment. And honestly, to cut her down. Now, as a leader, especially a Christian leader, I'm embarrassed to admit that. Thank God that was 30 years ago. But can I tell you, it was a big day in my leadership when I said, how do you see it being done? It wasn't a matter of absolute. It was a matter of preference. It was a matter of conviction. It wasn't an absolute. Do you know how many of us live and die on things that could be done a different way, and it would get done faster if we didn't get in arguments about it? People, culture. How about personalities? Do you have some personalities that you get along with better than others? Have you ever had the thought, well, if they would just listen to me, we wouldn't have any problems? If you're driving, do not wreck. Here's what I could tell you. We all go through these things. When you get around somebody, one of the greatest things you'll ever do in your life is find out their wants, their needs, and their desires. I love to get around people and find out what makes them laugh, what makes them cry. Zig was one of my mentors in my life that I got the privilege to work with for 25 years. And while everybody else was off doing their thing, I used to serve Zig in the back rooms. And anybody know in Coliseums, they always have green rooms. And I would hang out with Zig. And it was probably some of the greatest memories of my life. And I have multiple books and notebooks of Zig and I together in the back room. I need to do a series sometime called In the Back Room with Zig. Zig was incredible. Now, Zig had a mentor named Kevin Roberts. Y'all don't know Kevin, but Kevin was incredible. He was an attorney that they sent to Arizona to die because his lungs were awful. He went to Arizona, and because the climate was better, his lungs cleared up. He had more energy than you could ever imagine, and he started something that you now know as the National Speakers Bureau. Cabot became a really, really dear friend and mentor in my life. I used to sit with him all the time. He was 75 then. See, some of you all need to spend some time not judging the generation before you, but asking questions of them. Let me tell you something about my generation, just so you know. And I'm a young man. My wife's 19, so I'm right near her. But my whole life I've been a note taker. And I notice that even in the rooms, and now when I start, and Tim, you're so smart about this. You've done this too. Josh, you've done this. Every great leader's done this. I will say, how many of you are taking notes tonight on your phone or your iPad? And everybody raises their hands now because paper has lost its way except for Goad. I still take notes, and I still have people want to put them. And Seth, can I tell you, on the way in here today, I went, I should take pictures of these and put them on a screen so I can just walk up and talk without my paper. But I like to be able to write and scribble and put notes in it, and y'all can do that with all your fancy stuff on your new iPads and iPhones because you can yellow and highlight and everything. That's too much work for me. I just like red, green, black ink because then I can write it in different things. But Zig introduced me to Cabot, and one day I was in the Lake of the Ozarks. You ought to look it up. Google it. There's a resort there called Tantera Lodge. And I love this place. It was out in the middle of nowhere, and Cabot and I were sitting at the pool. And I said, Cabot, where do you get all this stuff that you talk about? You ever wonder where people get all this stuff they talk about? Right? Like, you may not know this, but I have got the most expensive research team in the world. I really do. It's millions and millions of dollars. And it's called Books I Read, Downloads I Listen to, Conversations I have with people who have spent millions of dollars on learning. And I've learned in my life, if I talk less and ask more questions, it's a blessing. So I said to Cabot, where do you get all this? And this is what he said to me. He said, Tim, you need to understand this. You want to understand this? I said, yes, sir, I will. I'm 25. He says, everything I know I steal, but I only steal from the best. He said, you got it? I said, yes, sir. I said, so what you're telling me is I can steal your information. He said, have at it, son. The only thing I'm asking is the first time you say it, give me credit. The second time you say it, say as I've always heard. The third time you say it, you say as I've always said. And so that's kind of been my life's drive. I was with, can I pick on you a second, Tim? Because I love you. I was with you the other day, and you don't have a choice. Plus, you gave me almonds and coconut, so I'm good. I was with you the other day, and something came up, and you started talking about something that you've lived, and you've lived it so many times. It's actually your ability to present a sales program. And within seconds, without any notes, without anything, it was like somebody found the button on him, and he went. And it was accurate, it was clear, it was concise, it was compelling, and I went, wow. It's amazing what 10,000 hours of doing something consistently will do in your life. We live in a world right now where people want powerful relationships and they want to microwave them. And some things take time. How diligent have you been at what you do? The second thing is equipping skills. Your ability to develop, to train, to transfer. These are big words. I'm going to give you a minute to write them down because they're magical. Your ability to develop others, to transfer. Your ability to lead transformation in other people's lives by your delivering of information and inspiration. Have you ever wondered why they pay college professors hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they pay entertainers millions and millions of dollars? Do you know why? Because people will pay more to be entertained than they will be informed. So I want to talk to you for a second. Let me talk to you. Some of you need to learn how to be entertaining while you're delivering information. Big. Some of us are really good at let me tell you, move X to Z and Z to X. We give information, but there's no passion. When you give it to me, tell me why you believe it. Tell me why you're involved in it. I spent time with a guy yesterday on his marketing, and we were going through his plan, and he said it would take 15 minutes. I looked down at my phone. How many of you love these calls, right? And I love it. I'm not complaining at all. I looked down later, and 2 hours later, I was getting off the call. And he was running me through it, but to say, Tim, what do you see? What do you see? What do you see? And when he finally got done, here's what I told him. Steve, this is what I told him. I said, you have given me great information with no reason to do it. Why don't you ask me about my dream? Why don't you ask me what makes me cry? Why don't you ask me what makes me laugh? Why don't you ask me why I believe what I believe? Why are you so interested in just delivering a transaction to me without first getting to know me? Getting to understand me. Because if I give you direction and I give you information, even as a child, if I'm parenting you, if I minister to your why, your desire goes off the roof. We live in a world right now where people are full of information, but they don't know why. And can I just tell you, I'm a pastor, so I'm going to talk to you like a pastor. It's why most people can't defend their faith. We've got to also be able to have the apologetics to be able to say to people, this is what I believe, but then have the courage that when we get tested, we don't back down. We stand our ground. How easy is it for me to get you to quit? Big questions as a leader. See, my question, honestly, your question in relationships, do you know what it is? When is the point that you're going to walk out on me? Don't raise your hands, especially if you're driving right now. People listen to these podcasts while they're driving. But I want you to ask yourself, how many times in your life have you built a relationship with somebody that later you found out you couldn't trust? Equipping skills. Because truthfully, can I tell you this, leaders? Listen. In a positive, uplifting way, we need to be very disrupting in people's lives. Think about it. You got to challenge status quo. If you're going the wrong direction, turn around. Anybody besides me ever get in a fight with your GPS? Turn around now, you're going the wrong way. That thing doesn't know what it's talking about. I've been on this road 1,000 times. My buddy and I, his name is Dean Bryant, we were in Canada, and we were trying to get back to the border to get me to the airport so I could fly to Kansas City. I will always remember this. And he was driving 100 miles an hour. We were making great time. The GPS was screaming at us, turn around. We're going, no, we're going to the border. We were 20 miles from the border, and he was going faster and faster. How many of you know we were going really fast the wrong way? We went across the border, but it was not the American border. It was Ottawa, Quebec. It was like we went across the border and we looked at each other. And I'm going, if you ever tell anybody, this is the same friend that had his friend behind us in his Cadillac. He was in a Mercedes, and we were doing 120 miles an hour, and the guy in the Cadillac was trying to keep up. And he was laughing the most demonic. It was demonic. He was sitting over going, and I'm like, what are you doing? All of a sudden the phone rings, and the guy following us goes, could you please slow down? I can't keep up. See, leaders in life going the right direction at the right speed is incredibly equipping. Most leaders get too far ahead of people. All right, that's a lot. Third is attitude. I got to keep moving because I got a couple of things to get done here. Anybody in this room ever struggle with your attitude? When I got ready to go out and walk this morning, I definitely had an attitude problem. And then it increased when I looked at my wife and said, it's 45 degrees. I said, I'm thinking about going. She's going, I ain't going. Well, all I needed was somebody to say I ain't going, and then I didn't have to go. You know what I'm talking about? So I just want to tell you, in life, attitude matters. Because there were other people out this morning in shorts and T-shirts running going, oh, I love this. And you're going, you're crazy. We in Florida, when it gets below 50, we're pretty much like, oh my gosh, it's sub-zero weather. Attitude. Attitude. You can have a great attitude and get nothing done. I have a lot of people that got great attitudes that do nothing. But it's hard to do anything significant, long term, without a better attitude. A better attitude. It changes how I see the future. It changes how I see people around me. It changes how I see my circumstances. It's big. 4, I got to keep building my leadership skills. Do the right thing at the right time for the right reason in the right way, without everybody or anybody having to tell you to do it. That's big. That's big. Do the right thing at the right time for the right reason in the right way. Now, for a long time, I only taught it, do the right thing at the right time for the right reason. And then I realized as a leader, there's a lot of things that you can do, but do it in the wrong way and get the wrong result. Oh, that's deep. We'd have to talk about it. It is so true. It is so true. Because if I do all the right things in the right way, at the right time, for the right reason, but I do it in a way that shuts you down, and instead of opening you up, I've shrunk our ability to grow. I just got to let that sit there. Some of you, I don't know if you've ever had this happen. Have you ever done the right thing at the right time for the right reason, but you didn't get the desired result? Yeah. Because your tone wasn't right, or your body language wasn't right, or your words weren't quite as kind as they could have been. What is it in us that we feel like when we're attacked, that if I yell and get more volume, I'm going to get a greater change? When I was 22, I heard a speaker speak. I think it was Og Mandina or somebody small. And he said, kings don't have to yell. They whisper, and people die. I went, whoa. So you mean loudness doesn't always mean effectiveness? Matter of fact, I would tell you in your life, the moment you find in your leadership that you're yelling, and I'm not saying we shouldn't be passionate, but I think you'll find your influence will go down. Because anytime somebody feels disrespected and dishonored, they shut down. I think we need to make leadership simpler, don't you? And I think, honestly, leadership is all about example. I've had so many great leaders in my life give great definitions of leadership, from Zig to Maxwell and on and on. And I'm not trying to redefine leadership. What I am saying is if we can make it simpler, I think we'll change a lot of lives. What do leaders expect from emerging leaders? For those of you that right now are getting a start and you're fired up about making 30,000, you're making 50,000, or you're making 100,000. Can I just tell you something? Let me punch pause for 1 second. And I wished I had an hour to talk to you about this right now. The difference in mentality between making 50,000 and 100,000 is drastic. You actually, in order to make more money, have to work smarter instead of harder. It doesn't take more energy. It takes more thinking. And at some point in our lives, we have got to learn how to get things done through other people. It is the biggest skill you will ever have in your life. Somehow, when I was a little boy, very young, in the 4th grade, one of my heroes was Mr. Carr. He was the phys ed teacher, and he was amazing. I loved him. He was a man's man. He walked. He was tough, but he was fair. Do you know what I'm talking about? I loved him. One day, in front of the class, he said, "Tim, I need to see you in the hallway." And I'm sitting in the class going, oh, gosh, my mom's going to kill me. I'm thinking I did something wrong because most of the time I was. I wasn't like disrespectful or dishonoring. I was just honoring. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, I loved to have fun. School was boring to me. I was like, I got all these smart people around me. I don't need to know this. I just need you to know it. So you learn it really well because I'm going to be asking you later. Now, some of you are going, oh, that just really bothers me. Okay. It's a mentality. Now, I learned. But I learned there were really smart people that wanted to help me. And I wanted to help them. Right? So here's what's crazy. He got me in the hallway and he says, "Tim, I've got an emergency teacher meeting and I need you to watch the class." And I was like, okay. I'm going, oh no. I didn't say anything to him. I didn't change my look on my face. I'm standing in the hallway looking at him and I'm going, but Billy and Bobby, the two meanest troublemakers in all the school, are in that room. Tim, I'm trusting you. Take over this class. Yes, sir. I walked in and everybody's looking at me like, you got beat. I'm saying, hey guys, you're not going to believe what Mr. Carr just asked us to do. Notice that. You know what most people would do? They would have walked in and tried to power up and take over. And I said, Billy and Bobby, you are the two that need to help me the most because I can't do it alone. Some of you, oh gosh, this is deep. Some of you, your greatest blessings are in people's lives right now that offend you. They irritate you. They've hurt you. They've messed with you. All of you wants to shut down and be unforgiving. I would encourage you to extend an olive branch and finish. Maybe you're going to have to let me do this right now, okay? You got to give me permission. You're going to have to do it God's way and not the way you know how to do it. The way of the world is power. But God says the only way you'll ever really truly know power is through love. Now, love doesn't mean we sit on our bottoms and do nothing. It means it changes the energy in which we fight in. When you love somebody, the mafia will find out who that is. And they'll come to you and say, if you don't do this for us, we're going to hurt the people you love. Right? Some of you in sales, some of you in doing what you're doing, you're scared because you're focused on fear. You're not focused on love. When you decide that you love the people in your life more than you love the fear that is holding you back, wow. Get ready. There is a battle. There is a battle. There is a battle raging. And the battle and the temptation is to get you to do it the wrong way so that you don't get the right result. So, that was deep, and I appreciate you hanging in there with me. So, number one, review real quick, and then I'll give you two more today. Review is we are looking for people. Leaders are looking for people that are hungry to grow. Let me tell you how that's explained around here. Make it better. Whatever you see, make it better. How do we get better? Better always happens before bigger. And if bigger happens before we get better, we shrink because you cannot maintain what you do not know and experience. You can't do it. So you're going to come back. So that's why in your life, some of you, if you've ever worked for a bad leader and you were a good leader, it's a tough day. So in your life right now, we're looking for people that are hungry to grow. Number 2, we're looking for people that finish. They not only get started, but they finish. A lot of people get started, but they don't finish. In your life, you want to get people around you that are addicted to finishing. What this week do you need to do to finish what you didn't finish last week? What do you need to start at the beginning of this week to get done that you didn't start before? 3 is servant leadership. We're looking for people that love to serve. My son talked about that already in his time. I would just tell you, we will never learn our divine purpose if we do not serve. And it is one of the greatest things, and I beg parents, I beg you. I'm on my knees. I'm begging you to get your kids serving somewhere, especially if you're a person of faith, get them serving at church. Because one day it will become your church instead of theirs if they don't have buy-in. So I just encourage you, bring your family, bring them to the wall, and have them build with you. When our kids were small, and I was reading every child-rearing book on the planet, and most people don't know it, but I have an honorary doctorate in child development because I had 88,000 at-risk kids in a program. I really had multiple years and millions of dollars to learn the education I did about children. Did you know this? That a child, by the time they're 2 years old, have already developed their primary set of values in their lives? And they start to understand how life works. They start to understand little words like honor and respect and loyalty, kindness. Big stuff. So as you begin to move in your life, it's important to get people serving. One of the things that we did with at-risk kids, we got them serving. Start serving. How many of you know entitlement mentality will kill you? If you think you deserve it, and that's your life, wow. And I can't tell you how many calls I get a week from parents calling me and saying, can you help me? Can you help me? And I go, yeah, I'll help, but here's what you have to do. Do you want to know what you have to do? I'm not doing a family event yet, but I will be. Okay? It begins with an apology. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. By the way, leaders, this is true of anything in our leadership where we've done and went the wrong way. I'm so sorry. I validate what it did to you. But here's the next step. Really, really powerful. Okay, new. Are you ready? 4 is we're looking for character. Why do we need character? Well, you have read enough books and you've listened enough that you know about character. You know character, honestly, can get you in places and keep you in places that skills and talents cannot. Skills can get you to a place, but character will keep you there. But the main reason you knew we need it is because it is the glue that holds a team together. Because without trust, we cannot accomplish anything great. I just want to tell you this right now. If you're building anything, if you're building a family, you're building a business, you're building a company, you're building a ministry, I don't care what you're building. The number one thing the enemy wants to do in your life is produce an environment where there is no trust. Because where there is no trust, there is no loyalty. And where there is no loyalty, there is no unity. And where there is no unity, people don't come together. How good are you at bringing people together? How good am I at serving in an environment? As a leader, there will be moments in your life you'll be leading, and at the same time, you'll also be following. Because if you and I are going to grow, how many of you know we got to duplicate ourselves? We can't centralize everything. At some point, we have to decentralize. Every leader in the room that has ever built anything massive knows that duplication is the secret in life to extended high performance and growth. You got to do it. So I want to move you, especially the people around me. I want to move you from it all being my performance to I need to bring performance. Now, can I tell you, before you can make room for all the performance that you want to do in your life, you have to create mass so that you have something to move. A lot of people start duplicating and giving away too quickly. And when it happens, it splinters and you lose the ability. Jesus prayed, let us be one as the Father and I are one. Why? Because you cannot get anything done without it. So if you're going to start a movement, the greatest thing that wants to happen is, honestly, we want to split. And I got to tell you, you guys are running companies and organizations. If somebody has a desire to do that, let them. Let them. Let them. Let them. But in your team, keep it unified. Because they'll have the battle. So who you bring on as players really do matter. Who you bring on as employees really do matter. Have you ever brought somebody into your world and on your team that was a disruptor in the wrong way? They caused disunity. They were backbiting. They manipulators. They wouldn't honor authority. They wouldn't honor. See, we hate those words. We really struggle with them. We struggle with them big time. And as a kid, thank God my mom and dad taught me early, and my dad let me know under no uncertain terms, son, are you going to be somebody that's going to walk around and does not honor, does not understand order, and does not understand authority? Whose authority are you in? And if you're not under authority, you can't be in authority. I hope you're hearing me. I know this is a foreign concept, but there's nothing worse than talent that's unbridled. There's nothing worse than just the most brilliant, bright people without this in their lives. You build companies, you'll know what I'm talking about. And when somebody goes renegade, you can see what happens. They just go. And can I tell you, it's naturally stored up in every one of us. We're just that way. I want my own way. I think my way's better. In marriage counseling, we call it right fighting. I'm right. No, 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 I'm right. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. Trust. Integrity. Can I tell you something? Character is really going to determine how you treat people. It will determine how you talk to people. As you can imagine, I could talk a lot more. Let me give you one more, and that's gratitude. Leaders are looking for, in emerging leaders, gratitude. Gratitude is the beginning of all humility. Gratitude, as it turns out, is the key to all happiness and fulfillment. We used to have 88,000 at-risk kids. That was kids alone. That wasn't counting their moms and dads. It wasn't called, I had another program called Champions that we reached out to their older brothers and sisters. And we had high school programs, and we had another 250,000 students that went through that. And I spent millions of dollars, and one day people came to me and they said to me, how do you know where to put money? And my answer at that time was, well, I pray and God gives me wisdom, and that's where we go. But it didn't take me very long before I realized, watch this, and I close, that if people do not have gratitude, you can give them everything in the world, but it will never change their life. Because no matter what you give them is never enough. Never enough. Gratitude, as it is that unbelievable thing inside of you that makes you thankful. It makes you grateful. It puts you on a quest to ask the questions that you need to ask, and you need to say it, and you need to say it often. I want to challenge everybody today. I want to challenge you to be full of gratitude and become an encourager. Become somebody that encourages people and be thankful to them. Find somebody you can text today, email today, or call today and say, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for who you are. I want to say thank you for how you live. I want to say thank you for what you've done for me. I want to say thank you for how you've helped me. See, I'm so grateful. If you think in your life you're going to get anywhere in life by yourself, I stand here today, honestly, in my role, where the greatest people on this planet have poured into my life, and they continually pour in my life. And I continually look for more and more people that can pour into my life to help see, believe, and help me establish my destiny on this planet. What God's called me to do. See, we're all running right now, and here's what I want to encourage you to do. Run the race to hear, well done. Well done. You've been faithful over a few. Now I'm going to make you ruler over many. Can I tell you, one of the greatest ways you can ever devalue a leader is by taking that leader for granted. You can devalue them. I'm going to close on this. This week has been incredible. There are so many miracles happening around here at G5. There are so many things that are coming that are going to be mind-boggling. And I am so excited about our team. We have a team here that serves. If you're here and you're not on that team, please get on that team. It will radically change your life. But I was talking to a friend of mine this week, and he happened to say to me, well, Tim, you just got to know, I need, it was a man. He said, I need my wife to buy in to the mission. I need my wife to buy in to G5. And I let that run for about 5 minutes. I was already getting emotional. And I said to him, I hope they buy into the mission, and I pray they buy into G5. But what I pray more than anything else, she buys into you. And I pray that he buys into her. Because I don't want to be the thing that people buy into. I want them to buy into the King, and I want them to buy in to the people they love. You see, I will never go around a father to mentor or coach or critique another man's child without that father's blessing. I'll never do it. The weakest form of leadership is to go around the leader and make the leader that's in their life not of value. We had a program called Jam Street, and I used to do exit interviews, and I would go to the mothers whose their kids loved the program. And leaders are looking for people of character. And I went to the mothers and I asked them, I said, tell me how you think about Jam Street. They go, oh, it's incredible. You have no idea what you've done for my child. I said, well, I'm grateful for that. But I said, tell me about, oh, it's incredible. They can't wait to get there. And then at a moment, I'd be sitting with an at-risk mother and tears would start to stream. And she would say to me, in honesty, your program has taken my place in my child's life. And I went, I'm so sorry. And that was the day that these single mothers, I had them start running the programs. And they become the hero. And I watched these women who were basically, at some point in time, teaching their children wrongly, begin to start to teach their children correctly. You see, if you're a little boy and you're 8 years old and your mom and 3 sisters have not eaten in 5 days, and you go to the store and you have a choice to steal a bag of potato chips, in your mind, it's hard as an 8-year-old little boy to decipher between stealing the bag of potato chips or watching your mom and sister starve. That's where a drug dealer in St. Louis gave me the greatest education of my life. We owned a building there. Ministries helped us. Joyce, I could tell you the ministries that just poured in and helped us reach these 5,000 to 8,000 kids every week. But I was standing outside of the store one day, and the drug dealer looked me in the eye, and he goes, well, let me tell you, as far as I'm concerned, it's all about being here. And I looked at him like, what are you talking about? He said, yep, it's all about being here. I said, what do you mean? He said, these kids get out of school, they got nowhere to go, and they come down here. And when they come out, whoever's here is going to get their attention. It's all about being here. Leaders, do we have the character to be there? Do we have the character to come together? Do we have the character in our hearts right now to rise up and build people, to build relationships? Yes, we do. You're doing it in this room. You've done it in this room. And I just want to tell you today, as we close this out, I'm talking to people today that your greatest visions are still in front of you. Your greatest moments in your life of life change in other lives are going to be so powerful. I just want to encourage all of us today. I want to encourage Tim Goad. I want to remind Tim Goad, do it right, Tim. Do it in the right way for the right reason at the right time and in the right way. You're going to find as you start building an organization, as you start building a family, every dad in the room, every mom in the room knows what I'm about to talk to you about. It drives you crazy when somebody comes into your life and touches something that you love in a wrong way. Can I get it? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you touch. There's going to be a game. Because I love. And because I love, I protect. And because I love, I provide. You see, in your life, as you start building a team, you're going to find out in our home, our children have never seen me, to the glory of God, never seen me dishonor their mother. Not a harsh word, not ever disrespectful. I've never disagreed with her in front of the kids. We disagree in private, and we agree in public. And if we disagree in public, we go to the place and talk about it. But can I tell you, you start building a team. And there will people come into your life, and men, I'm talking to you, that will dishonor your wife. There are people that will come in, ladies, and they'll dishonor your husband. They'll dishonor your children. They'll dishonor other teammates. And they'll get their thrill out of that. But it destroys everything you're working for in a team. How do we create a culture where there's unity and honor and order and authority? There's power in it. There's big power in it. Can I give you one more story and then I'm going to leave, okay? Not very long ago, it was a while ago. We had a couple that come here, and they kept asking me for more and more freedom. And so I started giving more and more people. And the next thing you know, they came to me and said, well, we're going to start our own church. And I said, well, that's awesome. Where are you going to get the people? They said, well, all these people. And I said, really? Oh, yeah, I've been pastoring them anyhow. You didn't been pastoring. I've been pastoring them. I'm going, well, I think I asked you because you kept asking me. Right? Now, here's the story. Are you ready? I called my board because I love this couple so much. I wanted to keep them near me. I loved them that much. Matter of fact, he said, I'm going to start my church. I said, where are you going to get the new people from? I got these people. Where are you going to? He said, well, I'm going to keep coming because I can get more people here. I'm like, okay. That sounds like a good program for you. That's pretty awesome. You know what I mean? So anyhow, I called my board, and I just want you to hear, because this is not easy. I called my board and said, I love this couple so much. Here's the situation. What do I do? And every one of them came back to me and said, you've got to release them. And I went, no, I love them. And at that moment, Josh, here's what happened to me. I had to decide if I was going to do it my way or if I was going to be under authority. And I remember making the phone call. My wife will tell you, I still hurt about it. Oh, I'm well, but I love people. And I said, my board has made the decision that I have to release you. It crushed me. The attacks were horrendous. I said, I know. Leadership is not easy. So if you want to lead, step in and get ready. Get ready. Am I trying to weigh you down today? No, I'm trying to prepare you. Because when you go, you're going to think it's easy. But there is a battle waiting for you that you do not yet know is there, nor have you been prepared for. As we keep moving, here's what I can tell you. You know what the reward is because you're growing? Do you know what the reward is? Bigger challenges. If you pass the third grade, you're going to get in the fourth grade. And how many of you know that questions get a little tougher? Right? And we want to keep life the way it is, but it's moving. So we got to go and we got to grow. In your company today, in your church today, I'm talking to you. In your family today, you're going to have to make the tough calls, but we can do it together. Remember who you love. Remember why you love them. And don't lose your vision. And let's together keep building these 4 skills while we keep looking for great leaders as we keep running. Love you, Charge. Boom.